Well, here we are again for our weekly segment of our Marc Z Moment. Every week we like to check in with the fabulous Marc Z president of Marc Z Legal Staffing, to get up on what's going on in the world of personnel and placement. Welcome back, Marc. Always glad to see you.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be back. The sun is shining, and looking forward to a great week to come.
Oh, me too. Marc, what's on the agenda today?
Well, I thought we would talk about reference checking. That's been something that employers are divided on these days, because on one hand, you're only going to be, according to some employers, giving references of people that will supposedly give you good references. And so you're not giving necessarily the total accurate references. But on the other hand, if you don't give references, then obviously there's a due diligence part that's not being met. And what I'm saying is references are still very, very important. I think that, number one, references are important because even if it's given by colleagues you've worked with or supervisors, it's what the supervisor or colleague has to say that can, at minimum, give the employer some good quality input on this person that you're about ready to hire, if you really take the time to go through the reference checking process. So I think that on one hand, from an employer standpoint, employers should really still contact references, still get references from former supervisors, ideally, or people that know a candidate. And on the candidate side, obviously, you really want to approach people for references that you really think will give as much information as possible to an employer, so that employer can make a valuable decision, but also determine whether it could be the right fit for you, and also support you, as opposed to giving references that will not necessarily be advocating on your behalf or really be able to discuss your background and skill set. Another thing that's really important when you're giving references to an employer, make sure the references are given the heads up that they were going to be called, and also the best way to contact them. A lot of times people give references, and organizations, employers that are trying to reach the references have a difficult time to get a hold of the references, and it bogs down the decision-making process. So it's really important to keep the process going, to provide some quality references, and it's important for the employers to contact those references.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with anything you've said, and I think that they're all important. You know, you and I have also had our debates about references, and my biggest problem, it's sort of like resumes. There's so much professional help, so much setting up, and I'm just going to add, I just think the most important part is the backdoor referencing and checking up people, that you have to do the full gamut of things. And if you're not prepared to do the upfront references, the backdoor references, the background checking, the in-basket writing skills or tests inside the office, if you're not willing to do, and multiple interviews, individual, not in a group meeting, if you're not willing to do all the things that you need to do, expect to have a bad batting average. And I think that's what it's all about. It's how do you increase your batting average from maybe what is for most companies 20, 25% of the time hiring the right people to 60 or 70%. And it's really that difference. And if you're not ready to make the proper investment of time into all those things, then always expect to have a problem with building your organization and building a good culture. And you've talked about all these things, so I'm not taking a shot at you. I'm just saying it's a piece of a bigger package.
Right, I agree with you, but legally, you really can't be getting references from people that are not authorized. On the other hand, what's happening from some employers, they're saying to prospective employees, do you mind if I call Jeffrey Davis? I've known Jeffrey. He may not be somebody that you'd give as a reference normally, but do you mind if I call Jeffrey? I know Jeffrey. And that would be really helpful to get some information from you, because I have a lot of respect for him. And when those happen, a lot of times, some candidates say, absolutely, please touch base with Jeffrey, please touch base with that contact. And if they say, well, I prefer you not, then obviously they need to explain why they do not want you contacted.
Well, just recently, last 2 weeks, someone you may know has always promoted themselves as someone who ran a company before it was sold for a lot of money. And then I was in another meeting last week, years after hearing this, and I was told, yes, he was brought in just before it was sold. He was there for a few months. Again, if you don't get the backdoor reference, you get the sizzle without the story.
Right.
And, no one's going to sell. I'm not good.
Right.
You gotta get the full package. Now, Mark, I think this is important, and you can help people with these things. So if people want more information on how to deal with that, how would they find you?
Well, first of all, on our wonderful Radio Entrepreneurs website, radioentrepreneurs.com, Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter Z. Go to marczlegal.com, MARCZLEGAL.com, and 617-338-1300.
And you should all know that when Jeffrey Davis needs help with figuring out a person or finding a person, the person I call is always Marc Z. He is the most reliable person I've known to help me through these situations. So we all need the help of a Marc Z every once in a while. And remember, this is Radio Entrepreneurs, and Marc Z will be back every single week.
Thank you very much.